Absolutely nothing beats windshield time, a road trip, and good conversation in the car. Welcome to another episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, where we have entertaining conversations about cars and road trips, life lessons, and maybe every now and then a little advice. I'm your host, Dan Neal, road trip extraordinaire, and now buckle up and enjoy the show. So recently I had an experience renting a car at Alamo in Dublin, Ireland. The young man at the desk said, "Can you drive a manual transmission?" I wanted to go, well, duh, yes, but I didn't. I said, yes, that's not a problem. So now hold on to that, and we'll come back to the Ireland story in a moment. A little background on me. I was probably about 12, maybe 13 years old. I worked at the family grocery store. If you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me talk about the family grocery store. One of my jobs, I don't think it was a job, but I would pull the workers' cars around at the end of the day, around 7. I would pull these cars from the side lot to the front. Now, not a huge drive, for sure, but the majority of these cars had a manual transmission. So my experience with manual transmissions started very young in life. My first car at 16 was a manual transmission, 3 on the floor. Mine and Linda's first car out of college was a Honda Civic station wagon with a manual transmission. Our next 4 Hondas would have manual transmissions. I would have various BMWs over the years with manual transmissions. I had a Volkswagen with a manual transmission. One of the BMWs, I literally drove cross country from San Jose, California back to Cincinnati. So yes, I'm pretty confident I can drive a manual transmission. Back to the Ireland story. I went to Ireland in September with our good friends the Malones. We flew in on a Friday morning. We had booked our plane tickets, months before. We had found Airbnbs to stay at and a hotel or two. We had looked for places to eat, attractions to see, and we rented a car from Alamo. We land, we get through customs, we get our bags, we make our way to the car rental counter. It was an easy experience at the counter. We got our car. Took a little bit to find it in the parking lot, but that's okay. They helped us out. We found that. It was a Peugeot, manual transmission, right-hand drive. Remember, we're in Ireland. Not a big deal to me. Going to drive on the left-hand side of the road. We are traveling from Dublin to Killarney. If you know anything about that, it's a pretty open road. It's sort of like a divided highway here or an interstate. 120 kilometers or so is the speed limit. We just made our way there, and I think it took maybe 4 hours or so. We had lunch. We get into Killarney, and we're like, well, we should swing by the grocery store. So we do that, and we're about 2 kilometers for our Airbnb. It's kind of late in the day now. It's still daylight. I push the clutch in, downshift, clutch won't, pedal doesn't come up. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this could be a problem. Pull it up with my toe, and we limp to our Airbnb. We get inside the Airbnb, we get a little bit settled, and then I called for roadside assistance. I must say, in probably 40 years I've been renting cars, I've never used roadside assistance. I've never had a mechanical breakdown in a rental car. But I called, they're very pleasant. They're like, yeah, we can take care of it. We can do it tomorrow. In the morning, call Alamo, they'll get you another car. We'll get this all situated. Great. Call Alamo the next morning. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we can get you a car. Just call roadside assistance while we're finding a car for you. Get them to pick up the car. All is good. Great. Call roadside assistance back. They're going to come and get the car. Not a problem. Call Alamo back. Well, we don't have a car in Killarney, but we have one in Limerick. So I very quickly look at my phone, calculate the distance to Limerick, and that's a couple hours. So I said, well, that's 2 hours away. You have a suggestion on how I'm going to get this car? Well, you could take a taxi, or you could take the train. I'm like, well, no, I rented a car from you. You get me a car here. Well, they clearly weren't going to do that. And they also proceed to tell me I'm going to have to pay 2,500 euros as a deductible on the clutch, and they'll refund if there's a difference or charge me more, I think. I'm like, no, this is not my fault. I drove on an open road. I know how to drive a manual transmission. Well, you burnt the clutch up. This happens to the Americans who come here. Well, no, I don't think so. Before I could say no or anything, I get a ding on my phone that they've charged my card. And I'm like, no, hang on. And they're like, nope, that's the way it works. And I'm like, okay. So I decide this is my vacation. I'm not going to get all worked up about this. So I hang up. I call our Airbnb host. I ask her, do you know anyone who I explained to her what's happened. Do you know anyone with a taxi service? She's like, sure. My dad is a retired dairy farmer and he has a taxi. I'm like, great. Can he pick us up and we can at least enjoy our day, our first day in Ireland, really? She's like, sure. So she contacts him and he comes to the house to pick us up. Mr. O'Sullivan is his name. He wants to know the story, so we give him the story, and he wants to call Alamo. So we're like, sure. And so he calls Alamo, and he was quite upset with them, the way they were treating us. But clearly they were not going to help. They put him on hold. He put it on the speaker. They put him on what now appears to have been indefinite music hold. And I just look at him and say, Mr. Sullivan, we just want to go enjoy our day. So we'll deal with this when we get back. And he's like, fine. But he did say, hey, my daughter knows someone that works at another car rental agency. How about she works on this? And my first thought is, why are these people so helpful with our car rental when it's not even their problem? And I think what I learned through our travels through Ireland, they are some of the nicest people that I've encountered. And they just want to help you however they can. So I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I think during lunch, he dropped us off, told us where to have lunch, things to see, places to shop, everything. During lunch, I'm pretty sure she called me 2 or 3 times to let me know she's working on this. We end up, long short of that story is, we end up Sunday morning, Mr. O'Sullivan takes us to the Killarney airport, drops us off. We pick up a car from Hertz. We got in the car. We spent our week in that car. I am still battling with Alamo, trying to get this resolved. I send messages, I make phone calls, I get nothing back. If you've ever had a bad experience at a car rental agency, I would love to hear from you. And we'll do a little podcast episode of bad car rental experiences. So you can find me at dantheroadtripguide.com. Just fill out the contact form, and I'll get back to you. Until we meet up again, you can find me on the internet at dantheroadtripguy.com. I hope you will follow this podcast so that you don't miss any upcoming episodes, and share it with your family and friends so that they can enjoy the stories of my guests also. Until we meet again on a future episode, keep having conversations with each other and keep driving.